The Pope's Exorcist is directed by Julius Avery and stars Russell Crowe, Daniel Zavato, and among others. And this story is based on the true story about the priest known as Father Gabriel Amorth, who was the exorcist that served under the Pope. And in this story, it deals with Russell Crowe's character, who's the Pope's exorcist, who ends up having to help a family that comes from America that moves into Spain, and they're staying at this house that was left by the father. And it has to do with basically the boy gets possessed by a demon, and it's up to Russell Crowe in order to stop him. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was directed by Julius Avery, who I've only seen just one of his other films he did, which was Overlord, which I had a really blast with. I think that was definitely one of my most biggest surprises for the year of 2018. And I also did hear that he also did the movie called Samaritan, which came out last year, but I haven't checked that one out, but I heard it was just kind of middle of the ground, so to speak. But what got me interested with this film was the casting involved really with Russell Crowe, because despite this being one of the countless kind of movies that you would expect to be one of exorcism movies and other kinds of possession type movies that you see all the time, the biggest thing that got me interested from the trailers was seeing Russell Crowe in this. And after upon seeing the film, I can honestly say that this was actually quite better than I thought it would be. It does suffer for a lot from what you see from other exorcism movies and a lot of possession-type movies, but I think what really holds it together the most is Russell Crowe, and along with some other stuff that I find it pretty interesting the way the plot goes along with its tale of trying to keep it together with the character involved and also some of the other things that are involved with the demon itself. And so, to get my pros out of the way, I got to really say the biggest thing I have to say the most is Russell Crowe in this. Not only was he really great to see on screen with playing this kind of really like different type of priest than what I'm used to seeing, because in this one, and it's basically having a priest that not only drinks, he also speaks. He makes a lot of jokes when he's doing certain things. He's funny, and he's driving in this movie. He's driving a moped, and Russell Crowe makes it work. You can tell that he has such a blast in this. Like, he really carries it with playing this kind of really different kind of character I've really seen him play before. And that's really saying a lot, because within the last few years, I'm glad to see Russell Crowe has kind of branched out into other territory that I'm not used to seeing in, especially when he did a few years ago, in Unhinged, which I thought he was really great as well, and very dark as fuck. And in this movie, he really captures it with not only, being funny at times, but also the way that his character involved with this has an interesting backstory that I really enjoyed with who he became, who he was, because I'm not going to go into too much detail, but what makes him separate from other movies that involve with exorcism is that he gets into more of the psychological type of feel, where he's not basically he's not trying to, where it's established that he doesn't do basically he hasn't done really a full-on exorcism at some point, because what he tries to do is he tries to level with the people that are involved with it and try to really get inside their head. Kind of like a Professor X type of feel of it, where he's basically like a psychiatrist. And so I really like this direction they took with this character, because it shows a lot of the different layers that he goes through. And there's also some really good reveals I enjoyed with seeing how it played out with the plot. That also comes into effect with the other priest that's involved in this that bring into, that's played by Daniel Zavato, I believe his name is, played by Daniel Zavato, because there's a storyline going on with this priest that's involved where he's not really used to being trained. He's not trained to be into exorcism, and so Russell Crowe's character has to pretty much take him under the wing and essentially try to teach him on certain things. It also shows some pretty interesting stuff the way it goes down with this character, because it shows that both men are basically flawed and have a lot to deal with their sins and some of the things where they have to seek absolution, that I think really came into play with the way that the movie takes a spin on the genre. And so that worked. And then the other biggest thing I got to appreciate the most is the boy that plays the demon, that plays the one that's possessing this. I think his name was played by Peter de Souza Ferroni. I'm sorry if I can't get his name right. The boy that plays Henry. I think that he was not only, he really pulled it together on his own. He's no Linda Blair or anything from The Exorcist, but I think that his performance was very menacing at times, and the voice they have for him when he's possessed and stuff really works. And there are some really interesting stuff that they do with this demon that I really haven't seen in much other exorcism films, that I don't want to go into too much detail, but it does make it above more average than what I'm seeing in other countless movies that deal with the whole, but it makes it stick out in a good way, that I like seeing what this demon can do and stuff, because he does like do more than just possessing, and I'll leave it at that. And one of the biggest things I have to say the most is the production design and the way that it's shot and everything. The director Julius Avery really knows how to really lit scenes very well and make the production design really set the right atmosphere and stuff. And it gets us some really crazy territory toward the end that I was really surprised to see, and it gets quite gory in some places as well that I didn't expect for a movie like this. And so that was great. And then I got really commanded with the score in this. It's very haunting, like you would expect in these kind of films. And so those were great. Now, the only things I will say that kind of hold the movie back from being really, really great is the fact that, well, to get into my cons, it is what you would expect from this type of exorcism movie, where it goes into the whole cliche with, priest has to come, family basically moves into a house, they end up... It's very much like not only a very derivative of the Exorcist, especially in a lot of scenes where the demon is spitting out certain lines that you would expect from the Exorcist and stuff, and then also speaking vulgarity, and in addition to other stuff that also kind of reminds me of The Conjuring, especially with the family moving into this house, and some things go wrong, and then you also have the only character I didn't really care too much about was surprisingly the daughter in this, because I thought that throughout the movie, she is kind of annoying at times, and it did kind of pawn her on with some stuff that I just really care for about. The only other character that I think that could have been developed a lot more was the mother, because there's some stuff that's involved with her that they get into, but I think they don't spend a whole lot of time with, because other than Russell Crowe and the other priests, they're like the only ones that really get any kind of development, because the family that's involved as a whole don't really have much like going for them that's really, that sticks out really in a good way, so to speak, than what you would find in like countless other, types of possession films. And so there's that. And then there is some really bad CGI at times that I noticed, that especially when it gets toward the end, that I found kind of like out there. And then there's also some things that, it kind of goes in, it dives a little bit in the second half, that it kind of winds down with some of the pacing. But it still moves at a really brisk pace. But that second half did kind of wind down just a little bit, where I'm still interested, but it's really on the stuff that's involved with the Russell Crowe storyline. Because anytime that he was on screen, it felt like the movie lost a lot of its focus out of it. But other than that, though, I still really enjoyed this film, and it still captures a lot of what I would expect out of this kind of film like that. And overall, I still find myself really enjoying the film, and it's definitely something that I didn't expect really much to come out of it, especially when we see these movies all the time. And that actually does make me wonder what they're going to pull out with that Exorcism reboot that's supposed to come out later this year. Because honestly, if this movie actually turned out to be the better Exorcist film than the actual Exorcist movie that's coming out, that's supposed to be a sequel, I would be really surprised, because I really had a good time with this. And so with that, I'm going to give the movie a very low, extremely low, compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. So for those of you who have also seen the Pope's Exorcist, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.